Every week, hundreds of foreigners move to the Philippines thinking they've cracked the code, and every month, dozens quietly pack up broke, confused, and heading home. Let's talk about why. If you're thinking about moving to the Philippines because you saw a video claiming you can live here for $1,000 a month, we need to talk. I've spoken to expats living in the provinces, in BGC, in Cebu, and the cost range is absolutely wild. Some people are spending under $1,000, others are dropping $3,000 monthly. Later in this video, I'll break down the real numbers from both ends. And trust me, the difference will shock you. This isn't a hit piece. I live here. I love it here. But I'm going to tell you what actually costs, what actually works, and what nobody warns you about before you book that ticket. Because the bloggers lying to you about costs, they're setting you up for financial disaster. Before we dive into specific numbers, let me set the stage. Because where you live in the Philippines completely changes your experience and your budget. You've got two main paths here. Province life. We're talking small towns, sometimes an hour from the nearest mall or decent grocery store. Quiet, isolated. Can be boring as hell if you need constant stimulation. But peaceful, affordable, real Filipino life. Then you've got major city life. BGC in Manila, IT Park in Cebu, the developed areas. Modern, walkable, safe, expensive. This is where you get Western-style infrastructure. For Western-style prices. To each their own, right? Maybe you want that quiet farm life, waking up to roosters, knowing all your neighbours. Maybe you need the BGC bubble with your coffee shops and reliable internet. Both are valid choices, but the costs, completely different universes. A couple living in a Laguna province can spend under $1,000 a month. Someone in BGC needing Western comforts, $3,000 minimum, and that's not even living large. I'll show you both real budgets from real people in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what nobody mentions when they're selling you the Philippines dream. Everyone talks about how easy it is to stay in the Philippines. And yeah, on the surface, tourist visas are simple. Show up, get stamped, extend every month or two. Piece of cake. But here's what they don't tell you. Immigration will check your financial stability. Consistently. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to prepare you. Because I've seen people get surprised at immigration when they're asked to prove they can actually afford to be here. The SRRV, Special Resident Retirees Visa, is what a lot of people aim for. It used to be one of the best deals in Asia. Deposit $10,000 to $20,000 depending on your age, get residency. Not bad. But here's the reality. They've been changing requirements, adding documentation, making renewals more complicated. Each change isn't huge, but they add up. And if you're doing the tourist visa extension route, which most people do at first, you're looking at renewal fees every month or two. It's not expensive individually, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 pesos, depending on how long you extend for. But it adds up over a year. Plus you need to show you can support yourself. Bank statements, proof of income, return tickets sometimes. They don't just let anyone stay indefinitely without checking. Now, is it easier than getting residency in the US or UK? Absolutely. But it's not the no questions asked situation some bloggers make it sound like. The bigger issue. You need consistent financial stability, not just, I have money now. You need to prove you'll keep having money. That's where people get tripped up, which brings me to something way more expensive than visa fees. So, let me paint you a picture. In the West, you have a medical emergency, ambulance shows up in 10 minutes. Trained paramedics, proper equipment, you're at the hospital fast. In the Philippines, sometimes the ambulance calls you for directions. I'm not joking, I've seen it happen. Now, before you freak out, I need to be fair here. You cannot expect first world healthcare standards in a developing country. That's not reasonable. The Philippines is the 32nd largest economy globally. It's growing fast, but infrastructure takes time to build. But here's what will cost you. You're paying out of pocket for basically everything. PhilHealth exists. That's the government health insurance. But as a foreigner, you're not getting much from it unless you're a permanent resident who's been paying in for years. And even then, coverage is limited. Private insurance, sure you can get it. Should get it actually, but here's the catch. And I made an entire video about this, link in the description, on insurance companies here will deny claims for pre-existing conditions faster than you can say high blood pressure. Even with insurance, you're often paying up front and waiting for reimbursement, if you get it. A visit to a good private hospital in Manila, and by good, I mean somewhere with Western-trained doctors and modern equipment, you're looking at thousands of pesos for basic stuff. An emergency room visit could be 10,000 to 50,000 pesos depending on what's wrong. That's $200 to $900. Back home, maybe your insurance handles it. Here, wallet out first, argue with insurance later. I know expats who've had to fly back to their home country for serious procedures because the cost here was insane even at affordable Philippines rates, or because they didn't trust the quality of care. This is why everyone tells you to get international health insurance that covers evacuation, because sometimes the best healthcare option is getting the hell out. And that emergency fund I'll talk about later? Healthcare is exactly why you need it. Healthcare is one hidden cost that catches people off guard. Here's another that drains your account slowly month after month, and you don't even notice until you do the math. Alright, let's talk about money. Getting it here. Keeping it here, not losing chunks of it to fees and terrible exchange rates. First, and I'm going to be straight with you, use Remitly for your transfers. It's the best way to avoid getting cheated on exchange rates compared to traditional banks. Western Union, MoneyGram, even your regular bank wire transfers. They're taking a bigger cut than you realize. Remitly gives you the mid-market rate with a transparent fee. I've been using it for years. No affiliate link, no sponsorship, just genuinely the better option in my opinion. But, and this is a big but, you'll still need local banking for certain things. Here's what nobody tells you. Opening a Philippine bank account as a foreigner is complicated, and what you can open depends on your residency status. If you're a non-resident staying less than 180 days, most banks will only let you open foreign currency accounts, dollar accounts, euro accounts, that kind of thing. You can't get a peso account easily. If you're a resident foreigner that's staying more than 180 days, you can open peso accounts, investment accounts, basically the same stuff Filipino citizens can access. But even then, you're dealing with withdrawal limits. Depending on the bank and account type, daily ATM limits might be 10,000 to 40,000 pesos. That's $200 to $800. Not a huge problem day to day, but try making a big purchase or paying rent in cash. The bigger issue is that small exchange rate difference I mentioned earlier. Let's say you're transferring $2,000 a month to live on. If you're losing even 2% to bad rates, that's $40 a month, $480 a year. Over 10 years, $4,800. Multiple that by bigger amounts, longer time frames, you see where this goes. I dived into the details regarding the banking nightmare in another video. All the details on which banks are foreigner friendly and how to actually go about it link in the description. The point is, banking here requires strategy. You can't just wing it. And if you think banking is complicated, wait until you hear about taxes. This is the one that catches people completely off guard, and I'm about to tell you something that might change your entire plan. Stay in the Philippines for more than 180 days in a calendar year. Congratulations, you're a tax resident, and the BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue, just to receive, has some opinions about your worldwide income. Now, I need to be clear, I'm not a tax lawyer. You need proper professional advice for your specific situation. But here's what you should know exists so you're not blindsided. As a tax resident, you're potentially liable for taxes on income earned globally. Not just what you make in the Philippines, what you make anywhere. But I'm retired, I'm living on my pension. Okay, depending on where that pension comes from and what type it is, there might be tax implications. There might not. It depends. But I work remotely for a company back home. That's where it gets really grey. Technically, if you're physically in the Philippines while working, even remotely, there are questions about where that income is actually earned. A lot of digital nomads are flying completely under the radar here. They're on tourist visas, working remotely, not reporting anything to the BIR. Is it a problem? For many people, no, because enforcement is practically non-existent for small-time remote workers. But that doesn't mean the legal framework isn't there, it just means you're in a grey zone. And grey zones are fine until they're not. I know people who have been here for years, never filed a single Philippine tax return, never had an issue. I also know people who got nervous and hired accountants to figure it out, only to discover they technically owed back taxes. The rules exist, enforcement is spotty, your risk tolerance will determine how you handle this. But please don't be the person who lives here for 5 years and then gets a letter from the BIR asking about unreported income. Get proper advice up front. The tax situation also ties into that 180-day residency thing. Some people do visa runs, not just for immigration purposes, but to reset that 180-day tax residency clock. Leave for a bit, come back, clock resets. Does it work? Legally speaking, it's complicated. In practice, lots of people do it. Again, grey zone. My point isn't to scare you away from the Philippines. My point is, know what you're walking into. Budget for professional tax advice. Don't assume nobody checks means you're safe. Okay, now let's get to what you've been waiting for. Real numbers, real budgets, real cost of living from both ends of the spectrum. I spoke to people living in completely different worlds here in the Philippines, and when I tell you the difference is night and day, I mean it. First, let me tell you about a couple living in Laguna. That's a province in the Luzon region. About 30 minutes from the nearest McDonald's or Jollibee if you're on a motorbike. They own their house and land. No rent, no mortgage. Everything's paid off. That's already a huge advantage most people won't have. Their total monthly expenses, $925. That's about 50,000 pesos. Now before you think, perfect, that's my budget, let me break down what that actually means. Food is their biggest expense at $356 a month. That's groceries, local restaurants, coffee shops, when they go into town. They eat mostly Filipino food, chicken, rice, some pork. They're not buying imported cheese and steaks. Electricity, $94. But here's the thing, he's American, runs the AC at least 16 hours a day, takes 3 to 5 showers daily. When he's not there and it's just her, electric drops to $30 to $40 a month. So that $94 is elevated because of Western comfort preferences. They spent $154 on home repairs that month, upgraded bathroom pipes and fixtures. That's not recurring, just happened to be that month. Everything else is smaller. Fuel for the motorbike, $24. Internet, $18. Netflix, $8. Laundry service when he's there, $12. Water delivery, $5. This is bare bones Filipino provincial life with a few Western comforts mixed in. It's possible. It's real. But you need to understand what you're signing up for. You're far from everything. Nearest proper grocery store is a trip. Mall is an event. Hospital is at least 30 minutes away, probably longer. Entertainment is limited. Social scene is whoever lives nearby. If you love peace and quiet, if you want to fully immerse in local culture, if you're on a tight budget, province life can be amazing. But most foreigners, they struggle with the isolation. They miss conveniences. They get bored. Now let's talk about the complete opposite end. BGC, Bonifacio Global City in Manila. This is the soft landing capital of the Philippines. If you want Western standard of living, and I mean real Western, not blogger pretending to rough it Western, you're looking at $3,000 minimum per month in BGC. Let me be clear about what that gets you. A modern one-bedroom condo in a good building. Maybe 30 to 40 square meters. Nothing huge, but clean, new, properly maintained. Rent alone is $800 to $1,200 depending on the building and exact location. Reliable utilities. BGC doesn't really get brownouts because buildings have backup generators. Your internet works. Your water pressure is consistent. Your AC doesn't cut out randomly. Safety BGC is genuinely safe. You can walk around at night. Women can jog alone in the morning. It's got security, it's gated in parts, it's monitored. This isn't just hype. BGC is statistically one of the safest areas in Metro Manila. Walkability, this is huge. BGC is designed for pedestrians. Wide sidewalks, actual crosswalks where cars stop for you. Parks, you can live here without a vehicle and never feel trapped. Food quality, you've got international restaurants, Western grocery stores with imported goods, cafes with proper coffee. Yes, you'll pay for it. Maybe $10 to $20 for a decent meal out. More if you're going upscale. But the quality is there. Healthcare access, BGC and nearby Makati have the best hospitals in the country. St. Luke's, Makati Med, Asian Hospital. These are where expats go because they trust them. The $3,000 budget breaks down something like this. $1,000 rent, $600 to $800 food, $200 utilities, $200 transportation, grab rides, occasional car rental, $200 entertainment and going out. The rest is miscellaneous. You're not living large on $3,000 in BGC. You're living comfortably, eating out a few times a week, not every meal, getting a massage weekly, not daily. You've got breathing room, but you're not balling. Can you spend less in BGC? Sure. Get a cheaper condo further from the center, cook most meals at home, limit going out. You might get it down to $2,000 to $2,500, but you're making sacrifices. And lastly, what I call the middle ground, somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000. Yeah, it exists too. $1,500 to $2,000 a month will get you a decent life in other Philippine cities or less expensive Manila neighborhoods. Cebu, Davao, parts of Quezon City or Pasig. You're sacrificing some convenience, some safety, some quality, but it's livable. Very livable, in fact. You might be in a slightly older building. Maybe you deal with occasional brownouts. Maybe you need to be more careful about which areas you walk through at night. Maybe your internet cuts out when it rains hard. But you've still got access to malls, restaurants, some level of expat community. You're not totally isolated like province life, but you're not in the BGC bubble either. For a lot of people, this is the sweet spot. Affordable enough to sustain long-term, comfortable enough to enjoy life. To each their own, right? Maybe you're on a fixed budget and $1,500 is your max. You'll make it work. Maybe you need that BGC security and infrastructure. The $3,000 is worth it for peace of mind. Maybe you genuinely prefer quiet provincial life. $1,000 goes far. All valid choices. Just be honest with yourself about which one you actually are before you move. Now look, I keep saying don't expect first world standards in a developing country, and that's true. Infrastructure takes decades to build. The Philippines is the 32nd largest economy globally, growing fast, but Rome wasn't built in a day. I get it. I accept it. You should too if you're moving here. However, some things shouldn't happen regardless of development level, and this is where I'll criticize what deserves criticism. Skin tax. Charging foreigners different prices just because they're foreign? That's not a development issue, that's just wrong. You see this at some tourist sites, at provincial markets, even some services. For example, local pays 50 pesos, foreigner pays 200, for the exact same thing. I understand the economic argument. Foreigners earn more so they can afford more. But that's not how you build trust, that's how you build resentment. When tourists and expats feel like they're being ripped off at every turn just for being foreign, they tell everyone. It spreads, and your reputation suffers. Thailand does this at national parks. The Philippines does it at some beaches and attractions. It's a stupid policy that earns you a few extra dollars per transaction while costing you immeasurably in goodwill. Spain charges everyone the same. Portugal charges everyone the same. Japan charges everyone the same. That's how you build a sustainable tourism industry. Another thing that shouldn't happen, the complete lack of consequences for scamming tourists. Taxi driver refuses to use the meter, should lose his license. Tour operator takes deposits and disappears, should be arrested. Bar adds fake charges to your bill, should be shut down. But enforcement is practically non-existent, so scammers face no real risk, and honest businesses suffer by association. This isn't about being a developing country, this is about basic rule of law and consumer protection. Other developing countries manage it better. Now let me be fair about safety, because this gets exaggerated. The Philippines is safe from violent crime. You're way less likely to get stabbed here than in London, genuinely. The crime statistics back this up. Random violence against foreigners is extremely rare. Petty theft? That's real. Phone snatching, pickpocketing in crowded areas, bag slashing on public transport. If you're not careful, you will get hit eventually. But not careful is key. Don't flash expensive phones in sketchy areas. Keep your bag in front of you on jeepneys. Don't leave valuables visible in your hotel. Basic street smarts work. The stories you hear online about foreigners getting drained, scammed, robbed, yeah, they happen. I've posted some of those stories on my channel, but context matters. Often there's alcohol involved, or terrible judgment, or ignoring obvious red flags. Be smart, be aware, and you'll most likely be fine. Now let's talk about the comparison nobody wants to hear. And if you think banking and taxes are complicated, wait until you see how the government's broader priorities can slowly drain your quality of life and your wallet. Let's talk about a comparison nobody wants to hear. Tourism is down across Southeast Asia, but the Philippines is struggling more than its neighbors. Thailand is recovering fast. Vietnam is booming. Why does that matter to you, someone who wants to live here? Because a government that isn't investing in basic tourism infrastructure, like modern airports, reliable roads, and dependable ferries, is a government that isn't prioritizing the things that make daily life smooth for everyone, including residents, the terrible traffic in Manila, the overcrowded, outdated airports where you'll fly in and out, the insane cost of domestic flights compared to Vietnam or Thailand, the constant fear of brownouts in many areas. These aren't just tourist problems, they are resident problems. This lagging investment tells you something critical. You are on your own. You can't expect the system here to have the same safety nets or conveniences you might find in a country that's aggressively courting foreign money and talent. The "it'll be fixed soon" promise rarely materializes on a timeline that helps you. This reality directly impacts your cost of living and preparation. Your time is a cost, you'll spend more of it stuck in traffic or dealing with logistical headaches. Your peace of mind is a cost. Unreliable infrastructure adds a constant low-grade stress. Your wallet is impacted. You pay a premium for private solutions, like living in BGC, with its private generators, using Grab instead of public transport, or flying to Singapore for healthcare to escape these public system failures. Now I'm going to tell you something that separates smart expats from broke expats, and it's not about how much you make. It's about planning for the worst. I don't think I should be saying this. I mean, most of you already have this planned out, but this is for the majority who hasn't. Everyone plans how to move into the Philippines. Only few plans how to get out. And I don't mean permanently leaving because you don't like it. I mean emergency evacuation, medical crisis, family emergency back home, immigration problems, relationship breakdown if you're here with a partner. You need an emergency fund. Not for vacations, not for fun purchases, for emergencies. Here are scenarios I've seen happen to real people. Medical emergency requiring evacuation to Singapore or back home. Cost $5,000 to $20,000 depending on the situation and whether insurance covers it. Family member dies back home, need to fly back immediately for funeral. Last minute international flights, $1,500 to $3,000 depending on where you're coming from. Relationship ends badly, you need to leave the house/condo immediately and get your own place. First month, last month, deposit furniture, $3,000 to $5,000 to get set up. Immigration denies your visa extension unexpectedly, you need to leave the country. Flight, temporary accommodation in another country, sorting out new visa, $2,000 minimum, unexpected repairs or replacements. Laptop dies and you need it for work. A C unit breaks, water damage from typhoon flooding, medical treatment for something insurance doesn't cover. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just saying be prepared. Every expat I know who's thriving here has one thing in common. They have a cushion. They're not living paycheck to paycheck or pension to pension. They've got money set aside that they don't touch unless absolutely necessary. My recommendation, minimum 3 months of living expenses saved. Ideally 6 months. Plus emergency travel money, at least $3,000 to $5,000 separate from your emergency fund. So if you're living on $2,000 a month, you should have $6,000 to $12,000 in regular emergency fund, plus another $3,000 to $5,000 in evacuation money. That's $9,000 to $17,000 total sitting there not being touched. I know that sounds like a lot. I know many people moving here are doing it specifically because they don't have a lot of savings and want to stretch their money further. But here's the brutal truth. If you can't afford to build that emergency fund within your first year here, you can't afford to live here safely. Living in the Philippines on a tight budget is fine. Living here with no financial buffer is reckless. Because when something goes wrong, not if, when, you need options. Having money means having options. Not having money means you're trapped. I've seen people get stuck here because they can't afford to leave even though they desperately need to. That's a nightmare situation you do not want to be in. This isn't even fear-mongering for real. This is responsible planning. Build the buffer. Keep it liquid. Don't touch it unless it's genuinely an emergency. That's how you live here with peace of mind instead of constant anxiety. So should you move to the Philippines? Maybe. Honestly, if you're realistic about costs, understanding that $1,000 a month means provincial isolation, while $3,000 means comfortable city living. If you're prepared financially, emergency fund, proper insurance, understanding of tax implications. If you accept it's a developing country with developing country challenges, infrastructure issues, occasional chaos, things that would never fly back home. If you can appreciate the genuine warmth of people here without expecting everything to work like your home country, then yeah, it can be amazing. I'm here, I'm staying. Of course, I do travel to see other countries, but I have no plans to relocate permanently. But I came prepared, I had savings, I understood what I was walking into. I didn't believe the blogger fantasy of living like a king on spare change. The Philippines rewards realists, it punishes dreamers who show up with no backup plan. What nobody told me before I moved, that the financial preparation matters more than the monthly budget. You can survive on $1,500 a month here, but if that's your entire budget with zero cushion, you're one emergency away from disaster. Also, nobody mentioned how much the province versus city choice would affect daily happiness. I thought, hey, I can adapt anywhere. Turns out where you live matters enormously for quality of life. And the tax thing, seriously, get advice on the tax thing before you accidentally become a tax resident without realizing what that means. Look, I've made a video covering the banking nightmare in detail, which banking methods works better with foreigners, all of that. Link in the description. I've also made a full video about the insurance denial problems, specifically how they refuse claims for pre-existing conditions even when you think you're covered. That's linked below too. Check those out if you're seriously planning a move, and drop your questions in the comments, especially if you're in the planning stages. I'll answer what I can, and the community here is usually pretty helpful too. Are you leaning toward province life or city life? What's your realistic monthly budget? What worries you most about the move? Let me know. And if this video helped you see past the blogger BS and understand the real financial picture, hit that like button, subscribe if you want more honest talk about expat life here, no sugarcoating, just reality, and also if you'd like to support the channel and what I do here, consider becoming a member, it really helps keep these videos coming. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.